Hello, here we are in lesson 5C today. We're still using the distributive property, but today we're going to be using the distributive property with rational coefficients. So today students will be able to simplify expressions using distributive property. Students will be able to describe distributive problems correctly, and this is important for multi-step equations. So again, today is rational coefficients, which means decimals and fractions. So we're still applying the same concepts. We're going to distribute this 3 to the x, and so we would get 3x, but then we need to distribute the 3 to the negative 2.3. And so I know 3 times negative 2.3 is going to give me a negative, so I'm going to write the negative sign, but then I need to multiply 3 times 2.3. So that's what we do in our side work over here. 2.3 times 3, let's see, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 2 is 6, and there's one swoosh, so one swoosh, and we get 6.9. And so our answer right there would be 3x minus 6.9. All right, on to number 2. Number 2, we are distributing a 0.5, so 0.5 times 8x is going to give us, well, let's work that out, 0.5 times 8, 5 times 8 is 40, and then 8 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. One swoosh means one swoosh, and we get 4.0, or just 4x. Then 0.5 is multiplied by a positive 6. I know my answer there is going to be positive, and 0.5 times 6, if we work it out over here, is going to give us 3. And so we get the answer 4x plus 3. All right, on to the last easy one. Here we go. Negative 1.2 is going to be distributed and so negative 1.2 times 6. We need to work out, but I do know it's going to be a negative, so I'm going to write that symbol first. 1.2 times 6, right here we get 12, carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. One swoosh means one swoosh. We get 7.2. So right here we would have negative 7.2x for the very first term. Let me zoom in a little. The next term we get is going to be negative 1.2 times negative 1.4. And I know a negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to write that symbol first. And then I do the multiplying. 1.2 times 1.4, right here we get 8. 4 times 1 is 4. Placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Add them up. We get 8 and 6 and 1. And 1. 2 swooshes means 1. 2 swooshes. And so we get 1.68. So our answer there would be negative 7.2x plus 1.68. All right, let's go to some slightly more difficult problems. These have fractions, and then we'll be putting them together. In this one, 1/2 of x just means 1/2 x. 1/2 times negative 8, I know is going to be negative. And 1/2 times 8, you should be able to do half of 8 in your head, but just in case, remember we can cross cancel 1 and 4, and we get 4 over 1, which is just 4. So there's our answer for that one. Down to the next one. Don't mind that bell. 3/5 times 5x. So I know it's going to be positive, and I need to work out 3/5 times 5. So remember, when we're multiplying by fractions, we want to look for this cross-canceling. That's going to be our easiest route. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 5 once. So we do 3 times 1, which is 3. 1 times 1, which is 1, and so I know that that can just be written as 3, and that one had the x. Now on to the next one. 3/5 times positive 15, I know is going to be positive, so I'll write the symbol. And then down here, 3/5. 3/5 times 15. 3/5 times 15. I know 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 15 3 times, and so I'm really left with 3 times 3, which is 9. And so I'm going to write that as a 9. So there's our answer. 3/5 of 5x plus 15 is going to give us 3x plus 9. Okay, on to the next one. This isn't so bad. You guys know how to do this. Next, we're distributing in a 3/4. So 3/4 is going to go to the 8x first. Notice I only draw in one arrow at a time, and I work stuff out before I draw in my next distribution. So let's work this one out. 3/4 times 8x means I'm really multiplying 3/4 times 8. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 8 twice. 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. And down here I just have a 1. And so I would get 6x. Next, I'm going to multiply the 3/4 times the 2/3. I see my sign is going to be positive, so I'll write positive there, or a plus. And then I do my work to the side. 3/4 this time is going to be multiplied by 2/3. Now I can cross-reduce again. I see the 4 and the 2. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 4 twice. But I also see the 3 and the 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 3 once. And so what I actually have here is 1 times 1, which is 1. 2 times 1, which is 2. And so I get 1/2. So there we are, 6x plus 1/2. This is kind of fun. I like these. 5/8 times 8/3 with the x. Let's multiply that one out. I definitely see cross-reducing here. So 8 goes into 8 once. 8 goes into 8 once. Can't cross-reduce the other ones, but 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. And so I get 5/3, and that one has the x. Notice I'm not changing any of these into mixed numbers. I'm just going to keep them improper, and that's okay. Up next, 5/8 times negative 1/7. I know a positive times a negative is going to be a negative, so I'm going to write that symbol first. Negative and minus is the same thing. 5/8 times 1/7, that's what we need to work out next. I don't see any cross-reducing that can happen here, so let's just go ahead and multiply across. 5 times 1 is 5, 8 times 7 is 56, and I can't reduce that at all. And so I'm just going to write a minus 5/56. And that would be my answer. All right, now the first monster problem. Look at that one. Look at how fun that is. All right, so I see two different distributions that have to happen, and then afterwards we'll look for some terms to combine. The first distribution I see is 3/5 times 5x. 3/5 times 5x means I need to do 3/5 times 5. Remember to look for that cross canceling, and so I see 5 and 5 can cross cancel, and I end up with just, don't mind that, 3/1. So that's just 3. So right here, I'm just going to write it underneath this time. So I get 3x. That's my very first term. Next, I'm going to multiply 3/5 times a positive 15. Since I know it's going to come out positive, I'm going to write that plus sign first. Now 3/5 times 15 will work out over here. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 15 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9/1. And so that one is just going to be 9. All right, up next, this is a completely separate distribution. It's just in the same line. So up next, I have 2/3 times 6x. I see it's going to be positive, so I'm going to write that plus sign first. 2/3 times 6, that's what we need to do next. So I will look at this, and 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 2 is 4, and that would be over a 1, which means that's just going to be 4x. 4x. One more distribution to do. We have 2/3 times negative 3. Since I already see the sign's going to be negative, I'm going to copy that down right there. Then I do 2/3 times 3. In our side work, let's write it over here. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 3 once. 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, and so it's just going to be a 2. All right, now I see I've got some terms to combine. So I see I've got 3x and 4x. Both of those have x's, so I can group them together. I can combine those together. 3x plus 4x would give me 7x. And I wrote an equal sign here, so I know that this should be where my answer is. That's why I wrote that. Then I have my constants. I have 9, and I have a minus 2. 9, take away 2, is a positive 7. And so my total answer there is going to be 7x plus 7. Completely simplified. All right, let's try one of those again. We've got 3 more problems that are kind of monster-looking problems, but they're not actually that bad once you do them. Let's work out this one. 1/3 times 9x. 1/3 times 9 is what we need to work out there. I can cross cancel. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. And so for that one, I just get a 3. So I'll write 3x because that one had the x. Up next, I know I have 1/3 times a negative 12. Since I already see this sign right here, I'm going to copy it down here. This is going to be negative. Then I work out 1/3 times 12. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. And so right here I just get a 4. My next distribution distributes a 3/4 to the 4x. I can see it's going to be positive, so I'm going to write a positive sign. And then I need to work out 3/4 times 4. Remember to cross cancel. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 4 once. And I end up getting 3/1, which is just 3. That one had the x though, so I'll also write the x. Last one, 3/4 times a negative 8 means I'm going to have a negative symbol there. And 3/4 times 8 means 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 twice, and 3 times 2 is going to be 6/1. So right here I will just write the 6. Once again, we have some terms to combine. We have 3x plus 3x. Notice I also underlined the sign in front of it. 3x plus 3x is going to be 6x. And then my constants are a -4 and a -6. And so altogether, we're taking away 10. And so that would be our totally simplified expression. All right. Ooh, look at this one. This one has fractions and decimals. Ooh, that's fun. All right, let's go ahead and distribute 6/5 to 5x. I need to do 6/5 times 5. So remember to cross cancel. Those go in once each. And I get 6/1, which is just 6x. Up next, we have 6/5 times a positive 8. I know my answer is going to be positive, so I'm going to write the positive symbol first, plus. And 6/5 times 8 needs to be worked out over here. Now I can't cross cancel this time, and so I'm just going to multiply straight across. 6 times 8 is 48. 5 times 1 is 5. And I can't reduce that one at all, so I'm just going to leave that one as 48/5 for right now, though I might want to change that a little bit later. Up next, I'm going to distribute a positive 0.9 to a positive 6. I know my answer is going to be positive, so I'm going to write a plus sign. 0.9 times 6 we need to work out. 9 times 6 is 54. Carry the 5. And 0 plus 5 is 5. Swoosh and swoosh. And so we get 5.4 has the x. Last distribution, 0.9 is going to go to a -3. And so I know my answer here is going to be a negative, so I'll write the sign first. And then 0.9 times 3 is going to give us, well, 9 times 3 is 27, and that's a 2. And we have one swoosh. So right here I would have a -2.7. All right, now on to our last little part for this one. We have 6x that needs to be combined with 5.4x. Remember, for these, we need to line up the decimals. So what that really means is 6.0 plus 5.4. And that's going to give us a 4 and an 11. And so we get 11.4. So that will give us 11.4x. My constants are a fraction and a decimal. And so I need to change one to the other. And so I'm going to change this fraction because I know fifths will come out nicely. So if I think about this, I can take out, let's see, 9 groups of 5 would give me 45. So I would just have 3/5 left over. 3 divided by 5, 0.0 is going to give me 0.6. So that means this would be 9.6. 9.6 is going to be combined with a -2.7, so that means I need to subtract. 9.6 minus 2.7. If we borrow, we end up getting 6.9, and that's a positive 6.9. There we go. That's as tough as it gets. Do your exit ticket. Ask me if you have questions. Yay, math.